All right, today we're diving into something really interesting, Mauby bark. It's this beloved Caribbean tradition that's part drink, part tonic, and part folk remedy. You hear all these claims about it, right? From lowering blood pressure to helping with diabetes. But what does the science actually say? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out.
So, this really is the big question, isn't it? Is this super popular drink a secret health powerhouse? Or is this one of those cases where tradition and science just don't quite see eye to eye? We're about to put it under the microscope.
Okay, so first things first. What is Mauby? Because you've got to understand, for so many people, this is way more than just a beverage. It's a taste of home, a deeply rooted cultural staple all across the Caribbean.
So what is it exactly? Well, Mauby is a tonic you make by boiling the bark of the Colubrina elliptica tree. What you end up with is this really unique, kind of bitter, kind of sweet drink. People usually throw in spices like cinnamon and anise, and then, they typically sweeten it up. The flavor is definitely an acquired taste, but believe me, it is hugely popular.
Now let's get into the real reason Mauby is so famous, beyond just its flavor. We're stepping into its role in the folk medicine cabinet, and let me tell you, the health claims are pretty extensive.
For generations, Mauby has been the go-to remedy for a ton of different things. We're talking about supporting your heart with this long-held belief that it can help lower blood pressure. People have reached for it to help with the aches and pains of arthritis. It's also praised as a way to calm a bloated stomach and even to clean the blood. You know, that classic folk idea of a detox. And beyond all that, it's just seen as a great general tonic, something to cool you down on a hot day or give you a little boost. It really was the Swiss Army knife of traditional remedies.
But, and this is a really big but, we have to be super clear here. While these traditional uses are everywhere and people really believe in them, the hard scientific evidence to back them up is, well, it's pretty thin. Most of what we know comes from stories and personal experiences passed down, not from rigorous clinical studies.
Okay, so let's zero in on one of the biggest claims of all, diabetes. This is where Mauby shifts from being a general folk remedy to a very modern health concern. And the question on everyone's mind is, can it actually help manage blood sugar?
And this slide right here perfectly captures the central dilemma. You've got the promise versus the problem. On one hand, the promise. The bark does contain compounds that, in a lab setting, look like they might improve how our bodies use insulin. But then you have the huge problem. The traditional way of drinking Mauby is almost always loaded with sugar, which can send your glucose soaring. And, you guessed it, we're still missing any solid human trials to prove it really works.
So to really put Mauby's claims into perspective, let's bring in a challenger, one with a much stronger scientific track record for blood sugar control: cinnamon. This gives us a really clear benchmark for comparison.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because this table just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the strength of the evidence. Mauby is all folklore and early-stage research, while cinnamon is backed by multiple reviews of actual human trials. What about the known effect? For Mauby, it's a big question mark. For cinnamon, we've seen a modest but statistically real drop in fasting glucose. And in practice, the sugar in Mauby is a major hurdle, while cinnamon is usually taken as a spice or in a capsule.
So, what's the crucial takeaway here? It's that when you look strictly at the evidence for helping manage blood sugar, there's a clear winner. The science we have today points overwhelmingly to cinnamon as the more reliable, evidence-backed option.
Okay, let's bring this all home for our final takeaway. How should we actually think about Mauby bark for our health, trying to balance its incredible tradition with what science is telling us right now?
Before we wrap up, we absolutely have to talk about safety. Mauby isn't totally risk-free. It can cause an upset stomach for some people, and importantly, it might lower blood pressure, which could be an issue. It can also potentially interact with certain medications like blood thinners. So the bottom line is crystal clear. Always talk to a doctor before using it as some kind of health supplement, especially if you have any chronic health conditions.
And that really brings us to our conclusion. The best way to look at Mauby is to just enjoy it as a unique cultural tradition. It's a fantastic beverage with a rich history. But when you're talking about managing a specific health condition like diabetes or high blood pressure, it's just so important to rely on treatments that are actually proven to work.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. In your own life, how do you navigate that fascinating, and let's be honest, sometimes complicated line between cultural tradition and hard scientific proof? It's definitely a question worth thinking about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.